First of all, man, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Big fan. I'm a big fan. I watch all 5 all the time.
I saw the movie. I think up there with, I think your movie was, when I was coming up, Scarface was a cult classic, right?
Me too.
And then Wolf of Wall Street was kind of the cult classic now because of this story. But I'd like to focus about talking, because what most intrigues me about you is the comeback.
Right.
And failure, I'm a big proponent. I always talk about failure because failure typically brings out the best or the worst in people. What do you think the toughest thing for you was? Because you were at a level that people dream about, and even then they still can't get
right.
to go all the way to where obscurity, dealing with law issues and stuff. How are you able to get up off the ground and be like, okay, what's my next move?
I think, for me, I think it's about, what's your why? Why do you want to come back from wherever you are?
Right.
Failure, a terrible thing, right? And I think, for me, it really had to do with that moment in time about, the love for my children. I had 2 kids, and it was just like, you can't imagine, like, forget about the pain I caused for myself, other people, but to my children, it was like just this unbelievably gut-wrenching moment. I had to tell them I was going to jail. And I didn't want that to be the story of my life. And I think what happens with some people with failure is they let failure define them, become the story of their life. They become the failure. For me, I look at failure very differently. That when you fail, as long as you're willing to learn the lessons, because the lessons are in failure, if you're willing to learn the lessons, it makes you stronger. You can become better. You become tougher, more resilient. And obviously, there's a lot of hard work to be done, things you have to learn, changes you have to make. You have to be honest, get brutally honest with yourself. And I think that's one of the things about the book I wrote, The Wolf of Wall Street, was I was brutally honest. This is my next book. Yeah. But it was brutal honesty. And then from there, knowing that I wanted to show my kids that I was a good man, that I wasn't the person that made those mistakes, but that those were mistakes I made, and here's the better version they could look up to. And, thankfully, I think I accomplished that in many times over.
Because what you did is you took accountability. And I can honestly say, not many people own as much shit as you did.
Right.
Like, very few people who have been, and again, you're a unicorn in terms of the heights of your success, right? I mean, you had yachts sitting on top of yachts. But they always kind of have this guy did this, or this guy went behind my back. You don't do any of that. Like,
right.
You just own the moment.
Yeah.
How powerful is that for you on the inside? Because nobody can, like, if this was the type of interview where, like, I'm going to get him today, I'm going to try to, I can't possibly do that because you've done it all. Like,
I got myself, right.
Yeah. There's nothing that anyone could throw any criticism at you because you're like, yeah, I own that. How powerful is that for you?
I think the most powerful thing is that when you own everything yourself, you hold yourself accountable and don't look to others, that gives you the power to change. If you think other people are creating your circumstance, well, then suddenly your life is out of your own control because other people are doing things to you.
Right.
So if you look at it that, listen, my circumstance were created by my actions, and I could take different actions to create new circumstance. You give yourself the power to change. Thinking that the world happens to you, I mean, I'm like a victim of circumstance or creature, right. It's the most disempowering thing. You'll blame other people, which is exactly what you're saying. You blame, you complain, right? And, again, you set yourself up for massive failure, to become your failure like that.
Well, you end up in a time machine. 10 years goes by while you're blaming everybody else. Now, I talk about a lot, in my books, one of the things I always talk about is you're going to go through life where people hate you. Don't the color of your skin, whatever your religion, the way you look, dress, someone's going to have an issue with you. You can't change them.
Correct.
But you can fix the guy in the mirror. And what I mean by that is that dude in the mirror, you can mold him, you can discipline him, you can change things about him. Every situation you could always handle better, even when the chips are stacked against you. And in my case, sometimes like people being black and working at Fox, a lot of times you hear a lot of the race card shit, and that's exactly what it is, it's shit. And if someone didn't like me because of the color of my skin and I'm in a meeting with them, and maybe I know that they don't like me for that reason, but something they do and I take the bait.
Right.
And I get into it with them. And at that moment, it's my fault.
Well, you're giving them power.
Because I took the bait. But if I don't take the bait, what this individual thinks of me is irrelevant. But I allow myself. And that's one of the things that so impressive about you, because
I appreciate that.
And not to mention, you're not afraid of the limelight either, because some people will be like, because I was talking to Pierce Morgan the other day, and I was like, why come back? You got your money, you're good. The whole Meghan Markle thing, getting him fired from his TV show and stuff. Why'd you come back? And he just said, I had to.
Right.
There's no other reason. And you were coming back, and now you're teaching.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And what student can say, well, how do you know? And you'd be like, well,
I've been there and done it. Right.
On top of that,
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
what do you miss the most? Is there anything you miss from? Because and again, athletically, I had real high moments and it's on top of the world and had big bank accounts, and then all of a sudden, boom, one day it's all gone.
Right.
And you got to figure out what to do with that. I don't miss much from the highs when I'm in the lows. Is there one thing that you're like, oh man, I wish I would have kept that, or was there one material possession? Was there one thing that,
not material stuff. In fact, I live a great life, but to me, it was the camaraderie. In other words, I'm very fortunate that I still do large events and I have people in the audience, but there's a difference when you have a few thousand people that work for you every day and you're impacting their lives and everyone's having fun together. So that was amazing. There was a time in the beginning, especially before it got completely out of hand, where it was just like this unbelievable group of young guys and girls, by the way, and people that would have probably never made that much money, suddenly making millions of dollars. It wasn't just me making money, it was everyone making money. So it was just this incredible journey in the beginning that ended up going, take a left turn at Albuquerque, right?
Right.
But that, I certainly would always cherish those moments of everyone, all these people being together and just being happy, fun, carefree, and living the life.
Because I retired from wrestling this year, and while I don't miss the bumps and the pain, I miss the locker room.
Exactly, the camaraderie. Exactly.
Yeah. One thing in the movie they did capture well was like you had performances, and the speeches with the microphones and stuff, and
right.
You would get guys would be fired up and they'd be ready to go play a football game.
Exactly.
And that type, but you can't teach that. You're able to motivate, and now that you're outside of that world, but you're still motivating,
right? Just
in a different way.
Yeah. Well, I go out and do the events, both public and private, where I teach salespeople to become more effective, motivate just everyday people, entrepreneurs. So yeah, I still get that rush and I love doing it. Something that came naturally to me. So I'm fortunate that I got I got a second chance, and I think everyone has the ability to have that second chance, but you gotta then make the most of it. You gotta take action. It's on you.
The second chance.
Yeah, exactly.
You could have laid down.
There you go.
You could have, you're a smart guy. You know how to make money.
Yeah.
So you could have just run off into the sunset.
Yeah.
And stayed on.
I'll give you an example. So when I went to jail, right, who was my bunkmate? Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong. We're sharing a cell together, right?
Wow.
And that's how I started writing a book. Tommy, I was telling him stories about my life, and he's like, dude, you got to write a book. It's insane, right? I was like, really? But the thing is that he gave that same advice to probably 50 other people as well.
Of course.
But they didn't do it. So, I took that opportunity. I got good advice from someone, and then I had to teach myself a skill. I had to learn to write. And I spent 1 year studying a famous author, Tom Wolfe, Bonfire of the Baddies, using his book as a textbook. And I taught myself a strategy. How do you write at a high enough level to really write an engaging book? So I think one thing that people don't often do is they don't take the time to learn the skill.
They just want the result.
They want the result. And very often the result you want requires a specialized skill. And you got to do the hard work. It's not fun.
Well, you know what? I wrote my first book. Let me ask you a question, because I went through the whole thing, because when you hear how they break it down, I couldn't do chapter 1 to chapter 13.
It's difficult.
Fuck no. I would just write random things, just all over the place, and then I had to put this jigsaw puzzle together.
Right.
Then you finally get it together, and I gave it to the publishers. About 2 weeks before the book came out, I got the finished copy, and I started reading it, and I freaked out, and I called it books off. I didn't want to share this much. I didn't realize you caught me on some bad days. I wrote some stuff that I'm not comfortable with.
Brutal honesty, yeah.
Brutal honesty, talking about yourself. And they're like, well, it's too late.
The copies are in the bookstores.
Yeah, and my writing coach, a guy named Chris, was like, this is common. You're going to feel, one of those happy guys.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck that. I don't want the book out. Did you go through any of that with your first book? You wrote it and you're like, you know what?
Not till 10 years later. There's so at the time I wrote the book, I had lost everything.
Right.
Right? And so I had nothing to lose. I was just brutal honesty, putting it all out there. I read the book that 10 years later. I'm like, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe, like, today I'd probably be a little bit more careful with, like, saying things about myself. But, I think that served me well.
That's what makes you so likable.
Yeah.
Because even though they weren't maybe dealing in millions, they're dealing in their life, same situation.
Exactly.
Like, I didn't handle it like
exactly.
that. I wish I would have owned it like that, because brutal honesty with yourself, I think, is
people respect it.
Is the essential key to being better. Because I can tell you, and I did, when my knees didn't quite go the way I wanted with my football career, I had my golden ticket to where I could just blame it on an agent, or like, oh, they made me practice on a bad wheel and I didn't get signed. People will find those things, and then that instance becomes their martyrhood, where it doesn't matter what the conversation is, it'll always come back to my knee. Like, that's my reason for not doing anything else. And you wouldn't, because you had a pretty good reason for not doing anything else.
Listen, I also, as you said, I could have just made money quietly as a salesperson, as an entrepreneur, but the path was almost it writes itself, your path.
Right.
One action leads to the next action, and so forth, right? So when I started writing, I never imagined it would end up this way. But I think that when you just do the right thing and do the hard work, things end up working out in a way that you want. You don't know which path you're going down, but it's one foot in front of the other. And I knew I wanted to come back. And I was determined. I wasn't going to stop until I did. If it took 3 or 4 pivots, I would have taken those different roads. But it turned out this was the way, and I embraced it the whole way through. And I look back now, and I'm proud of it. And I'm also proud that my children are great, and that's the best part of all.
So it's a lonely path to redemption. And a lot of time and with me, like, I have friends who were very comfortable in the misery.
Yeah.
And when you decide to make the change, because it wasn't just you had friends, you
Right.
had connections, business associates, everyone took the hit. Was it difficult? Was there ever a point where you had to cut somebody off because they just couldn't let it go, or they weren't good for you anymore, in terms of, like, this is where I'm trying to go? We can't get that back.
Sure.
A lot of times people want that. They want that fast fish, that instant problem. Oh, if we do this, if we do this, maybe we won't get caught this time. But you have to go. Was there anybody? You don't have to mention names.
No, I know. Yes.
Like, there's like, you had to end relationships.
Sure. Yeah. The answer is yes. I mean, multiple times, even before I got caught, so to speak. Right. When I first got sober, I had to cut like a lot of people out of my life because they were still using and or doing things I didn't want to be involved in anymore. But then, of course, after jail, I just made it. To me, it was a commitment to myself. I'm never going to surround myself with people that are doing shit that they shouldn't be doing. I don't want to be part of it. And also, I'm never going to engage in a behavior myself that I think is even the slightest bit questionable.
So you're policing yourself.
Exactly. So it's never even an option for me. So it's like, it was pretty easy to when that's your mindset, it's really easy to stay, as they say, on the straight and narrow, because she was never even, I wouldn't.
Well, because you're going to be more strict to yourself.
Exactly.
Because someone else did.
Exactly.
Especially when you're dealing with getting over addiction stuff, because usually manipulators, that's the easiest way to you. Oh, just have one for old time's sake, bro. Remember, and then they got you.
Of course.
So, all right, let's switch to the new book, because I didn't get a chance to knock it all out last night, but I was, Brian Kilmeade and I he was wondering why I got to interview you first, and I was like, hey, talk to me tonight. So one of the things that we both discussed, because I went to the middle of the book to try to get some information, and then I found myself, I got to go to the beginning, and you talk about that, how the rich kind of block everybody out.
Right.
How does somebody break in? Like someone like myself, who literally, if it wasn't for Charles Payne, I wouldn't know much about Wall Street, because I'm always telling myself too aggressive. Whenever I got involved, I wanted to buy a bunch of stuff, and if I didn't get a return in a day or two, I had that, it's a farmer's patience with stocks, correct? Like
100%. So I think that the book is really, to me, represents like one part of like how you retire wealthy, and one is making a decent amount of money. You don't have to make tons of money, but making a living, and and making sure that your budget is not more than you're making, right? But then the question really is, what do you do with the money that you have saved? How do you put that money to work to really grow a nest egg that one day you can retire rich? And that's what this book is about. It's about the other side. How do you take the money that you have and the money that you earn and put it to work in a way that's safe, effective, meaning you're going to end up getting a return that will allow you to retire wealthy, right? And I think people intuitively make massive mistakes. All the things you think you should do, it's the opposite, right? Like thinking, like you said, I have no patience, I want to pick up winning stock. People that let's say you have $10,000 to invest. It doesn't matter if it's 100,000, 10,000, or whatever it is, or a million.
Okay.
All right.
I feel like I should have a pen right now.
When you get down to the smaller amounts, let's say 10,000, people say, well, I can't buy like a big stock because I need to find a little one that's going to go wildly, because how could I take 10,000 and make it into $1 million?
Right.
They think they have to come up with the next Apple or next Tesla or penny stock or crypto token. And the truth is that you could take even a very small amount of money like that and just simply buy the index, the stock market itself, S&P 500, hold it for the long term and make little contributions along the way, right? And through the power of compounding, it's very shocking what happens. You end up with a massive amount of money, not in 5 years, Taze, but 20, 30 years down the road. That's not that long. We live a long time, by the way.
Right, but
okay?
you're just impatient. Or is it lack of education? Like, I feel like the stock market it's not taught in school. Like, kids aren't coming out learning like how to balance a checkbook and, hey, I'm going to take $100 from each paycheck.
Sure.
And put it in a slow yielding thing like what you're talking about.
So,
and in 20 years, I'm going to be straight. That would be great. Instead, we're buying the new Apple phone every time it comes out.
Well, certainly that part of is budgeting and in financial literacy. But I think, one of the things Warren Buffett says that's great. If Wall Street truly gave you the best advice that they should be giving you, 90% will be out of business, because there's Wall Street. There's two sides to Wall Street. There's the positive side. They create massive value. Wall Street's necessary. Without Wall Street, the economy would not function. We would not be the country that we are financially. The U.S. dollar wouldn't be the global reserve currency. It wouldn't happen, right? But then there's the underbelly, the seedy underbelly, where they try to convince the average person to be engaging in short-term trading, trying to time the market, buy, sell, go from one stock to another, to oil, to this. Like, if you watch CNBC, they'll have you think you should whipsaw, and every time the market's up, sell, because you want to take a profit. And that's
why I always bail.
It's the opposite of what you should do. What you need to do is buy the entire market. It's very simple to do. There's a couple positions that you need. And that's really what the book explains. How do you go out there, establish the right type of account?
I'm double-fisted.
I got one too.
I read it twice.
Right, yeah.
If I read it twice,
right, so
I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. I want to do 2 books. Read one book twice.
It's so simple. It really is very simple. But the media, Wall Street media complex, tries to complicate it. And, like, for example, you think, these hedge funds are so great. Last year, like the S&P, just the market, returned 25%. Hedge funds average 5%. They can't beat the market. So it's like this very simple strategy that anyone can adopt. And it's buy, hold, long-term, reinvesting dividends, having a couple of key positions, right? And you can still speculate and have fun, like 5 to 10% of your money. But if you just simply do that and start relatively young, but it's never too late, by the way, you could end up with millions of dollars without anything special happening. Just patience, a little bit of investing over time, millions of dollars waiting for you when you retire. And the saddest thing is that this information, I didn't invent this strategy. This information's out there. I guess I made it, it's very funny to read, so it's engaging. So
that's one thing. You have a lot of humor in what you say.
That's so people will read it, because it's such, I think it's like life-changing information to what do you do with your money so you can retire wealthy one day. The future's coming whether you want it to or not. One day, you're going to want to retire. Do you want to have $50,000 in your account or $3 million in your account?
Probably go with $3 million. I'll take
probably, right?
All right, so let's switch to mental health real quick, because you are an intense dude. You are an intense dude. How do you keep that edge? Are you a workout guy, diet guy? Like, what is your secret? I heard some rumors when I walked in here about some ice baths. Like,
I'm an ice bather. Yeah.
Give me a typical day for a man like yourself.
Starts off every day. I do between 6 and 10 minutes in ice cold water, 35-degree water. I just go in there and I sit there in like Zen-like state. I used to go over 10 minutes. My doc said you have to cut it back, because really 6 minutes is sort of the optimal.
Right, yeah.
So I do at least 6, but I usually go over because I just enjoy it. And that gets me started. And then I do abs. I sit there in I live in Miami, so it's warm. But even if I'm traveling, I do it wherever I am. I'll have the hotel bring up like 20 buckets of ice, and I'll make it in the bath in the hotel. Right, okay. Then I do some exercise. Not that much, 15 minutes of exercise. And I'm set. And like the benefits of that, I have a bad back, right? It like took away all the pain in my back. I get an incredible, I get a free drug high without doing drugs, because you get this dopamine.
So you
rush.
Replaced it
exactly
with something positive. When does your day start?
My day?
Yeah.
Every day I wake up at 7 a.m.
7 a.m.
Lie in bed 15, 20 minutes. Then I'm up And, usually I'll be looking at the news. Fox News, of course, is my favorite, which, is I love Fox News, right? But I, look financial news. I love human interest stories too. I'm like a read. I just love to sit there and see what's going on in the world, right? And I go to MSNBC. I look at the other side too.
You have to.
I want to see what they're saying.
You have to. I watch everything.
I read the New York Times, which is hysterical.
Yeah,
New York Times.
New York Times, a little,
No, but I do. I make sure I read it because
you have to know.
You have to know, right? So I do that, and then I can really start with the ice plunges and the working out. I do red light therapy, oxygen, hyperoxygen. I do electrical stimulation mat, and I take 20 vitamins in the morning. Listen, to me,
I need to listen because my hip's weird right now.
Without having your health, like people say, and when you say, I wish I had my health. It's the truth. When you're not healthy, you can't do anything. So, to me, it's such an integral part of my life is that, eating healthy and just getting up and going in that ice. It's changed my life. And I'm telling you, you need a really big freaking ice bath. You need the giant ice. You wouldn't fit in my ice bath, okay?
The problem with me in ice baths is I cannot be around another human being for fear of physical violence towards me. And that's a real thing because when I was playing ball, they would have to trick me. Like the trainers would be like, come sit in the metal tub. They put the water in and out, and then relax. Then they dump the ice in, and then that's when.
Yeah, I want to have you handcuffed first. But I'd have to have your hair zip tied. At least if I get out of the zip ties. But
we have a walk-in. One of the gyms where I live in Louisiana, we have the walk-in ice thing, and I can go about as far as thighs, and then I'm like, listen, the knees and ankles are good, but that's something that I've got to work on. And I live in hotels, and I was going to try to use the excuse, but you literally said there's an ice machine 2 doors down. It might take some work. But it's about doing the little work.
I had them bring up giant vats of ice to get that thing down to 35 degrees. And it's amazing. But I'll tell you this also, today it's freezing in New York. I could walk out without a shirt on, and I don't even feel the cold anymore.
Because okay. So when do you sleep? Now, are you an 8 hours guy? Do you need to get your sleep? Because you're high energy, so I got a feeling you don't sleep.
Sleep has been the one, bane of my existence. But in the last few months, I've actually figured out a way to sleep well. So I'm, taking some supplements that allow me to sleep really well. So I'm getting about 6 to 7 hours a night now. And it's amazing.
Is ideal.
And for me, I used to go by 2 and 3. And many nights 0. I could not fall asleep. So now I'm sleeping great. It's been about 4 months now of good sleep. So I feel better from that as well. So some people are cursed with just insomnia. And I had that my whole life. But I never gave up trying to find the solution. I finally did. So thank God for that.
All right. And then before I let you go, so you mentioned the kids. We got to talk about the dad stuff. You were affectionately a workaholic, to say the least. There's a strange, when you start spending time with your kids and you try to manage work and father time because you can't do them together.
Sure.
How difficult was that for you? Because you're almost stepping into a new world, and they notice everything. You can't be on your phone. You can't be stressing over work. Was that an easy transition for you?
Listen, for me, I guess I'm old-fashioned in a sense. I thought that the most important thing I could do as a father, besides love my kids unconditionally, was earn money to make sure I stayed secure and safe. And I always did that. Even in the worst times, I always provided for them. And I don't understand men or women, like deadbeat dads or mom. I can't get that, right? How you could live with yourself and look in the mirror. But I think I just love my kids so much. I was always there for them. So. And then I guess one of the advantages of living this life as an author, even though I travel a lot, when I'm here, I get to spend a lot of time, especially when they were younger. Now they're older. It's like I'm begging them to spend time with me now. It's the opposite.
At home now,
right?
My 12-year-olds are doing me dirty.
But I always said to myself that I need to provide for my family, and that identify was a very high value for me. So. And I did a very good job with that. And thankfully, my kids are grown now, but we're really close. I have a grandson now who's 6 months old, which is amazing. So I get to
relive it. And in a lot of cases, for the first time, because you were working so much.
Exactly.
Do you think men put too much price on being the provider opposed to spending the dad time? Because a lot of times, because I'm on the road all the time. But now that because fatherhood wasn't, I had to learn on the job also. So
sure.
It's kind of and I had a lot of the pressure and all this other kind of stuff, but I could never walk away. And sometimes throwing money on things don't make it better because they don't give it. If I put a stack of hundreds on a table to my 9-year-old or said, let's spend all day with a daddy date, the daddy date's going to win. Now I won't do that with my 12-year-old because they're going to take the money. But
Well, I think that's in somewhat nowadays with technology. Even if you have to travel for work, there's no reason you can't get in.
no, I'm a FaceTime dad. We're on all the
You
time.
get it?
We even sleep with the FaceTime.
There's no reason that you can't connect with your children on video if you're traveling. But you could always, if you're here, it's bullshit. You can always make time for the things that are that important to you. You can. So
Right.
think that there's not enough hours in the day that you only have to work or you only have to focus on your kids. I believe that if you're really committed to these outcomes, you can find time to do both.
Yeah,
Or else
because you
you're
can
kidding
find time
yourself.
to do bad things.
That's again blaming others, just as justification. There's enough hours in the day to make as much money as you need to make and spend time with your kids. That's my belief.
No, and you're 1,000% right, because literally I will FaceTime in between during the day.
Yeah.
I have an Xbox set up in my office so I can get on Minecraft whenever they need me. You know, I'm the only one who knows a straight angle in terms of building the little houses for them to.
We make time for the things that matter to us.
Yes.
So if your children truly matter to you, which most really do, you make the time.
And if they don't,
Then that's a different issue. Then I think that's why you need to look in the mirror, as you said, the man in the mirror.
So is this out now?
Out now on Amazon and bookstores, thankfully it's doing really, really well. And I think it's a must read because it answers that question. What do you do with your money to set yourself up for the future?
And it's entertaining.
Yeah.
Because I did the cheat code. I went to the middle of the book, and then I was like, I got to start over. Yeah. So, make sure you guys pick this up. I've got 2 copies. Actually, no, I got a third one too. So
I got one too.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to get the wife to read this, so that when I explain, because what happens is when you learn new information, you get excited, and you want to share.
Right.
usually when I want to share, she's like, "How much is it going to be?" I've been known to invest in some things here and there, but mostly more like animals and stuff. But this is very cool. The Wolf of Investing. I like it. So you're sticking with the wolf, huh?
The wolf. I mean, if you can't beat. I tried Jordan. Everyone loves the movie, loves the identification with that. Right. So I figured, if that's going to help people look at the book, well, why not?
And the nice thing about the movie is it told the story, but it allowed room for redemption.
Yeah.
It didn't end with the jail cell closing.
Exactly.
Like it showed that you were able to come back from it. And I think that's probably the strongest message.
I'll tell you something, I know we're almost out of time, but a great story is that the movie was first going to be made in 2007, and it got delayed with the writer's strike. So it didn't go back into production for 4 more years, 2011, 2012, right? Well, what happened is when that movie was first written, the script, it ended with the door slamming, because that's where I was. I just got out of jail.
Right.
But over those 4 years, I made a comeback. And when the time came around for them to make the movie, I saw all these videos of you speaking, and he was so intrigued by the comeback story, they changed the third act.
And they needed to, because that's what makes the movie so much different than any other. And I hate to use the term gangster, but like it's like that kind of like you were playing high stakes poker with big boys, and for that, usually when it's over, the main character either dies in a gunfight or he's at the bottom of a jail. And you took it to the next step to where you're like, and that's where most people, because they use actual footage at the end of the movie, and that's where you're like, I know, I've seen that guy. I stayed up and watched that guy.
Right.
Because he's Leonardo, you're like, oh, that's Leonardo. But then you're like, no, that's the I stayed and watched it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I rewrote my own life story while it was being made into a movie. I used a delay, which was bad news. Oh, my God, the movie's delayed 4 more years. But rather than I could have said, oh, my life, so what can I do? I thought it was going to be a movie. But instead, I just put one foot in front of the other, and I built this really successful business speaking around the world, teaching salespeople, entrepreneurs. And when Scorsese saw that, he said, we have to change this movie because it was so fundamental to the story. As you said, it made it a better movie. And I think the lesson there is that it's never too late. You can always rewrite your life story, but number one, you got to take responsibility for whatever you did wrong. You have to accept it, not blame others. And then also there's certain skills you're probably going to have to learn and master, and then just take massive action, massive hard work. And it's never too late to change the story of your life.
As long as you're willing to do the work.
Bingo.
Well, Mr. Wolf, thank you so much, man.
My pleasure.
It's an absolute pleasure. Ice bath. I'm all over it.
Ice baths. You got to get a really big ice bath for you.
Yeah.
Oversized ice bath.
Yeah. Well, I got a giant.
You like an iceberg of ice.
Maybe one of those horse tubs.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? One of those big tin ones, because everything I do is grandiose and ridiculous. So there has to be something giant that my kids are afraid of, or I try to talk, because my son plays, he's in travel baseball, and I tell him to take ice baths all the time, and he has the same problem that I do when he gets in the tub and his mother is not appreciative of his behavior when it's the ice.
The ice.
Something about the ice, I wasn't born genetically. There's some issue with me and ice. Like I don't get mad when I'm in the sun at all, but you put an ice cube on me, I'm gonna have a problem. So I'm gonna work on myself.
Yeah.
Next time I see you, I'm gonna be able to tell you that I sat for 6 minutes.
And I feel like a superstar.
I'll be like, all right, bro, I did it. Or I'm gonna say, didn't go well. You want to do hotel stay. If you have any recommendations, that'd be great. So, thanks again, man. I appreciate it. If I get you a chance, if we have a penny, you sign one of these,
absolutely.
that'd be amazing. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Really appreciate it.